How's it going, everybody? This is Will Robson here. You can check out my work at facebook.com/RobsonINK or at Twitter at RobsonINK. So this video is going to show me, I didn't film the roughs. I was roughing this page out, well, not this page, this pin-up, and I thought I might as well make a video out of it because I really like it. So you're going to see some weird roughs being made right now, and then you're going to see pencils, and then you're going to see inks. This is Judge Dredd, and if you don't know who Judge Dredd is, well, then I don't know what to say, just look up Judge Dredd. And basically, I've had a very interesting past couple of weeks. I've been working on Todd, Time of Death, and Meta Rising, and then I saw a post about there's an opening for the colorist of Savage Dragon, the backup stories in that book. So I decided to just chuck in my hat. If you watch my 100 Days of Comics video when I coloured that Jed pinup, my character Jed, I sent that in and I got the job, but the job was way too much for me to handle. It was no pay, and I was getting really behind on my client work, and I wasn't making enough money to pay my bills, and I just had to make lots and lots of corrections constantly, lots of tweaking, and I don't want to be a colorist. I mean, the reason I did it was to have a foot in the door, so I sort of backed away from that. I got 4 pages done of it. I don't know if they're going to use it. It was a 6-page story, so I might be in Savage Dragon 197, I don't know. But then, after all of that, I needed to relax a bit, so I just sent my portfolio off to IDW again, and if you saw my video on my London Comic-Con portfolio making thing, I had a great meeting with Chris Ryle, who's the chief editor at IDW. So I sent him my portfolio from time to time, and this time I mentioned that I really like Judge Dredd, so he said to me, oh, just send me a couple of your versions of Judge Dredd. So I decided to do a couple of pin-ups. And if you go on my Facebook and stuff, you'll see 2 more. We see 1 more, but I'm going to have another pin-up done. And he wants me to send it to him after San Diego Comic-Con, so that's why I'm doing this right now. So the first pin-up I did is him jumping, and he's kicking punks in the face, and they're having like a protest against judges and the law and stuff like that. But this one I decided I wanted a bit more action and him fighting a giant robot, because Dredd does fight robots. It is the future. It's 2100, I believe, is the date. And the first one, I didn't really like the way my Dredd looked, and this is exactly how I want my Dredd to look here. So I'm quite happy with the way this turned out. Some of the inks at the end aren't very good, but I spent 9 hours making this, so I just needed to call it a day on it, and that was 9 hours spread over, I think, 4 sit-downs with it. So I'd spend like 2 hours here or 3 hours there and stuff like that. So I find the hardest thing about Judge Dredd is this eagle on his shoulder, and just by studying a lot of the way people draw it, they sort of make the wings connected to his like his pec, like his right pec, and by that I mean like his boobie, and it's malleable. It can bend even though it's metal. So, but I wanted to separate those little metal chunks a bit so you could see that it can bend just by spreading out. It's the same thing I do with his belt as well. You can see that with the belt I made it so it sort of splays outwards. I really like the movie Judge Dredd version. I liked how he has a smaller helmet and everything on him is a bit smaller. I don't like the massive shoulder pads, and I don't even like Judge Dredd to be a huge butch guy. I kind of like him to be a bit more slimline, sort of like the body of maybe Daredevil or Spider-Man, or a bit more hench than Spider-Man, because I just like Judge Dredd to be able to hop about and stuff like that, and like this action, getting into it, and not just being a big bulky dude, because he's got so much bulk on him with his huge gloves and boots and shoulder pads that I didn't want him to just look like a tank. I wanted him to look more like a really quick, mean guy. So with the robot, I still wanted to keep that punk idea. I try to make my Dredd feel a bit 80s. If you see my other pinup, I have loads of people like wearing 80s punk attire, even somewhat 70s punk attire. So here I'm doing the chain. I just copied and pasted one little sort of tic-tac that I drew, and then I sort of just moved it around in loads of places, and then I just merged all those layers, and then suddenly I had a chain. And then as you see me when I render later, I add a bit of lighting to that. And now I'm going to do his badge, which is a bit annoying. I don't know if it came out that great, but it's so tiny that no one would ever see it. I tried to make it a bit 3-dimensional by popping out the Dredd logo, like the text of it and stuff like that. So this robot here has got a mohawk. I didn't use any of the robots from Dredd because I just like creating my own robots, and I wanted to have this huge robot with these big arms, sort of really framing the image correctly. And then I had them fighting in a warehouse only because I know how to draw wood, and I can draw it pretty quickly. I mean, the way I draw wood I got from John Byrne and Todd McFarlane and Greg Capullo and stuff like that. They just had a lot of texture, and I thought it'd be nice to have this really clean, shiny robot, and Judge Dredd fairly clean because he's got a lot of shine on him as well, but in this dirty warehouse, because I mean he is from a pretty gritty area, Judge Dredd, in Mega City. It's not the nicest of places. I just thought it would pop more, and it does pop in the end. All the boxes, you'll see I'm going to add a ton of tick lines on them, and it sort of just makes the two characters stand out, which is, it's hard to do sometimes. Sometimes you'll lose your image, and you can only really see it in colours. And I didn't want that, and you even see me, I draw like all these dust specks all over the robot at one point, and I just erased it right at the end because it took away, like I couldn't see the robot anymore basically. So now we're getting into the rendering and just adding a bit more line weights on the characters where I see it needs to be, so that it doesn't get lost in the background. And you see now I'm just adding these sort of spot blacks. With a, like, if you're trying to shade a robot, I'm terrible at rendering metal. I still haven't decided how I want to do it, but as long as you just get the basic form down of this side is away from the shadow and have a nice use of strong blacks and then maybe a thin couple of render lines. I do sort of these swervy render lines to do everything. Whoa, the camera is hopping around crazy right now. I'm sorry if you're having a seizure watching this. Yeah, I'm doing all these boxes here, and what I like to do is I like to erase, like I like to draw, ink the box, and then I erase little lines on them. That way I can like put little chip marks in, and then when I get into rendering later on, I can really make it look more interesting instead of just bland boxes. Because I mean today, you know, if you have a really good colorist, they can add a lot of texture to your image and make it look fantastic, but I like to add in as much texture as I possibly can in inks, like Art Adams and stuff like that. I mean, well, I'm no bloody Art Adams, but I just love looking at black and white artwork. To me, that's the most appealing, and that's why I stopped the Savage Dragon thing as well. I was doing these colors and I was thinking, this is not what I want to do. I don't enjoy this. Like, why would I do something I don't enjoy, especially for free? So I'm adding in the warehouse now. I have a perspective ruler on for this, so I'm just drawing in these boxes. I didn't care too much about the way these boxes looked, as long as they look three-dimensional. They're not supposed to stand out as much, so you won't see as much rendering on them as everything else. So now I'm adding these sort of big warehouse lamps in there, just to break it up, and I wanted to really get some more black in there, so I've got a nice balance. And then I had another little box. I've had all these boxes pointing. You see they're pointing towards Judge Dredd. So that just focuses your eye. You'll even see all the sticks of wood pointing towards him and stuff like that as well. It's just a little thing to help sort of, I don't know, make everything look cool. I think this video is sped up way too much, but I mean, this is an 8-hour video, spent 10 minutes, so I apologise if it's going way too quickly, so you can't see all the little details going. I do render these little lines pretty quickly. I try to get them out as quick as possible. I knew halfway when I was through this down here, I was like, oh god, I gotta render all of these little pieces of wood, which I'd eventually do, and it does look great in the end. So you can see a couple experimentations on the rendering of this robot. At first I have these little lines here, but then I was like, well, it doesn't look shiny anymore, it just looks like a rendered object. And then you see on his hand there, I've got much different rendering going on, and that's what I eventually settle with for the whole robot. And then I was going to do what I usually do, which is spot blacks all over the metal on his shoulders, but when I started to do it, his shoulders just disappeared, like just merged into the background. And he's pretty, it's not a cute close-up of Judge Dredd, so I don't need to go too crazy on the metal on his shoulders. And again, a good colorist can make that really look great. So now I'm just adding all the little tick marks, the million tick marks I like to add, and that's all my Todd McFarlane influence, of just these 1 billion tick marks all over your art. I just like it because it adds a sense of grey, and it just makes an image pop. Like, it makes it look like I put a lot of time into it, because I have put a lot of time into it. So you see there, I just put all these dots all over the robot, and that's what I was talking about before. I don't want those dots, so I get rid of them later. They just sort of ruin the robot to me. You can't see it anymore, and it doesn't look shiny, it just looks dirty, which I kind of thought was a cool idea, but it didn't work in the end, so I changed it. So here's all these cut marks, and my thoughts with these rendering is I'm going two ways. Well, I'm going three ways. One way is diagonal on the rendering like that, and then the other way is going what's it called, vertical, and then sometimes I add these sort of like rounded tick marks like you see on the corners there, and I just do that, and it still follows the form, it's just a bit more round. Here I cheated a bit. I went back to a page of the standard, which will be coming out I think in October, issue 6, and I drew this piece where there was loads of glass being shattered, so I just decided to copy and paste that so I didn't have to draw glassing. And it, you know, it's like I've drawn this, why not? I mean, that's the whole great thing about digital, is you can just copy and paste stuff you've done before. And now I think I'm just adding the final touches to it, and then I have my signature in there, and it's done. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you want to see this piece in its entirety, go on my Facebook at facebook.com/RobsonINK or my Twitter at RobsonINK, and you can see the full piece. Thanks for watching, guys. See you, bye.